Your dog is standing at the back door on a winter morning, tail wagging, pulling toward the cold. You open the door and they bolt outside, so obviously they love it, right? But here's the question. When your dog runs into the cold, do you actually know what that excitement means? Most people assume it's simple. Dogs have fur. Fur keeps them warm. If they're excited to go out, they must be comfortable. End of story. But here's the thing. Excitement doesn't mean comfort. A dog can be genuinely cold and still display every sign of enthusiasm because their brain prioritizes routine and pleasing you over their own discomfort signals. That wagging tail isn't telling you they love the cold. It's telling you they trust the routine you built. And their body? Their body is about to work much harder than you realize. Dogs have a survival instinct that goes back thousands of years. In a pack, showing vulnerability gets you left behind. So they've learned to mask discomfort, to push through cold, to keep up even when their body is screaming for warmth. They're not lying to you. They're doing what evolution taught them to do. Stay strong, stay useful, don't fall behind. The problem is that you're not reading their body the way another dog would. You're reading excitement and assuming it means yes. But a dog's thermoregulatory system doesn't care about excitement. It cares about core temperature. And when that starts dropping, their body kicks into survival mode whether they're wagging or not. So what actually happens when your dog gets cold? Not the shivering you finally notice. The signs before that. The quiet ones. The ones that don't look like distress because your dog is working so hard to hide it. That's what most owners miss. And by the way, if your dog ever suddenly stops obeying you during a walk in the cold, don't assume they're being stubborn. We'll get into what that shutdown actually means and why it's the one sign you can't afford to ignore. But first, let's start with the early signs. The ones your dog is showing you right now. 1. The tight tuck walk. When the temperature drops, your dog's body makes a calculated decision. Reduce surface area, conserve heat. You'll see their tail pull tight between their legs or press flat against their body, not because they're scared, because they're cold. The tail has blood vessels running through it. In cold air, that's a liability, so the body tucks it in, minimizes exposure, protects the heat that's left. Watch their gait too. It changes, steps get shorter. The dog pulls their limbs closer to their core with each movement. If they have mobile ears, those flatten back even when there's no wind. The whole body compresses. This is thermodynamics. This is your dog's system trying to hold on to every bit of warmth it can. And here's what most people miss. A tucked tail almost always gets red as fear. You see it and you think something scared them. So you reassure them. You tell them it's okay. You keep walking. But your dog doesn't need emotional comfort. They need physical warmth. And because you misread the signal, they stay cold. 2. The paw lift rotation. Your dog's paw pads have a specialized system that normally prevents heat loss. But on cold ground, concrete, ice, snow, that system can't keep up. Heat drains faster than the body can replace it. So your dog does the only thing they can. They rotate. They lift one paw, hold it off the ground for a few seconds, set it down, lift another. It's systematic. It's deliberate. Watch closely and you'll see them cycle through all 4 paws in sequence. Sometimes they'll lick at the pads between lifts, trying to restore sensation. And sometimes they'll just stop walking entirely and stand there, shifting weight, refusing to move forward. That's not stubbornness. That's pain. Cold ground doesn't just feel uncomfortable to a dog. It genuinely hurts. Think frostbite precursors. Think the ache you feel when your fingers go numb and then start warming up. That's what your dog is managing, one paw at a time. But most owners see the paw lift and assume the dog needs to pee, so they keep walking. Or they see the stop and pull the leash, interpreting it as distraction, and the dog keeps going because you ask them to, not because they're comfortable, because you're in charge. 3. The shelter-seeking hesitation. Dogs are incredibly good at detecting microclimates, small pockets of warmth, areas with even a few degrees of difference. When they're cold, their brain starts tracking these spots obsessively. You'll see your dog veer toward parked cars and pause in the shadow, not to sniff, to absorb the residual heat from the engine or the wind block from the frame. They'll press against your legs during walks, leaning their whole body into you because you're warm and they're not. They'll move into doorways, under overhangs, behind structures, and suddenly they don't want to leave. If you're walking with other dogs, they'll position themselves in the middle of the group instead of leading. And if there's a patch of sunlight, even a small one, they'll plant themselves in it and resist every attempt to pull them away. This is den-seeking behavior. This is the same instinct that made their ancestors find caves and hollows when the temperature dropped. Your dog is trying to tell you something very clear. I need warmth. But most owners interpret this as the dog being distracted, stubborn, clingy. So they correct it. They pull the dog away from the car. They tug them out of the doorway. They discourage the leaning, and the dog learns that communicating this need doesn't work. If this is making sense, hit that like button and subscribe. It's the best way to help us reach more dog people who actually care about understanding their dogs on a deeper level. Because what comes next is where things get serious. 4. The compliance shutdown. When your dog suddenly stops listening to you in the cold, what do you think is happening? Most people assume the dog is being stubborn, distracted, testing boundaries. You call their name and they just stare at you. You ask them to come and nothing happens. So you get frustrated. But here's the thing. That's not disobedience. That's their brain shutting down. When a dog's core temperature drops too far, blood vessels in their extremities constrict to keep warmth at the core. That's survival mode, but it comes with a cost. The part of their brain that processes commands, that remembers training, that responds to you, that part stops working the same way. It's not that they won't listen. They can't. A study from the Journal of Veterinary Behavior found that cold stress impairs cognitive function in dogs the same way it does in humans. Reaction time slow. Memory recall degrades. Task performance falls apart. Your dog who has perfect recall at home can't even process their own name when they're this cold. So what does this look like? Your dog ignores you completely when you call, not defiant, just blank. They stare at you like they're trying to understand but can't connect the dots. Commands that are second nature, sit, stay, come, suddenly require 3 or 4 repetitions. Or they don't work at all. And here's the part that should scare you. After you bring them inside and they warm up, within 10 to 20 minutes, they're back to normal. Perfect obedience, full responsiveness, like nothing happened. That tells you everything. It wasn't behavioral, it was physiological. But most owners don't make that connection. They see the shutdown outside, they feel frustrated, maybe they even correct the dog. And by the time they're inside and the dog is acting normal again, they've moved on. They don't link the two. And here's what makes this sign so critical. By the time your dog reaches compliance shutdown, they've already been dangerously cold for a while. Every earlier sign was missed. The tucked tail, the paw lifting, the shelter seeking, all of it went unnoticed. This shutdown is your dog's body waving a red flag. And if you're seeing it regularly, you're pushing your dog too far. 5. The post-walk shiver delay. If your dog shivers after coming inside, does that mean they got cold outside? Most people say no. They assume if the dog was shivering from the cold, it would happen during the walk. The shivering inside must be something else. Normal warm-up, excitement, anything but cold. But here's the thing. Shivering doesn't always start when the cold starts. It starts when the body tries to recover. When your dog is outside in the cold, their blood vessels constrict. Blood pulls away from the legs, the ears, the tail, anything non-essential. It stays at the core to protect vital organs. Then, you come inside. The room is warm. Those blood vessels start to open back up, and all that cold blood from the extremities rushes back toward the heart. For a few minutes, the core temperature actually drops further. That's when the shivering starts. 5 to 15 minutes after you're already inside. So the shivering you see in your living room is revealing how cold your dog actually got on that walk, and it can last 20 minutes or more. Even in a warm house, you'll see it start in their shoulders, their back, rhythmic muscle contractions they can't control. They might curl into a tight ball. Their ears and paw pads will still feel cold to the touch. But because it happens after the fact, you don't connect it to the walk. You think, well, they seemed fine outside. This must be normal. It's not normal. It's recovery. It's their body working to restore the temperature you let drop too low. 6. The phantom lameness. When your dog limps on a cold day but walks fine on warm days, what does that tell you? Most owners assume the joint problem is getting worse. Arthritis progressing. Hip dysplasia flaring up. So they cut back on exercise. Maybe add medication. But here's the thing. Cold doesn't make joint disease worse permanently. It makes it worse temporarily. Synovial fluid, the lubricant in your dog's joints, thickens in the cold. Muscles contract. Range of motion decreases. If your dog already has arthritis or hip issues, or if they're just older, cold exposure creates real pain, real stiffness, real limping, but it goes away. 30 to 60 minutes after they're warm, the gait returns to normal. The limp disappears. And the pattern repeats every single time it's cold outside. So you're not watching their condition deteriorate. You're watching cold-induced inflammation that you could prevent. And the solution isn't less exercise. It's protecting them from the cold during exercise. Coats, shorter walks, warmer times of day. Because that limp isn't age, it's temperature. 7. The sleep deficit recovery. When your dog crashes hard after a winter walk, what do you think that means? Most people say it means the walk was good. My dog got great exercise. They're tired in a healthy way. But here's the thing. There's a difference between tired from activity and exhausted from cold. Maintaining body temperature in freezing air is metabolically expensive. It burns calories. It taxes the nervous system. After serious cold exposure, dogs don't just sleep. They recover. They sleep 1 to 3 hours longer than usual. They fall asleep faster. Their sleep is deeper. More REM cycles, more twitching in eye, movement, and even when they're asleep in a warm house, their body position stays tight. Curled up, nose tucked, still in heat conservation mode. For hours after the cold is gone. If your dog is consistently lethargic after cold weather walks, if they're less playful, less energetic for the rest of the day, their body is telling you something. This wasn't good exercise. This was stress. And you'll notice the pattern. Cold days, long recovery. Warm days, normal energy. The difference isn't the walk, it's the temperature. Your dog isn't tired, they're spent. So what does all of this actually mean? Here's what most people miss. The compliance shutdown, sign number 4, doesn't just tell you your dog is cold right now. It tells you that every earlier warning failed. The tucked tail, the paw rotation, the shelter seeking, all of it went unnoticed, and by the time your dog stops responding to commands, they've been dangerously cold for longer than you think. But there's something worse. When you keep exposing your dog to cold after they've shown you these signs, something changes. They stop signaling altogether. Research on stress response in dogs shows that repeated ignored signals lead to learned helplessness. Your dog learns that communicating discomfort doesn't change anything, so they go quiet. They stop tucking the tail. They stop seeking shelter. They stop lifting their paws, not because they're comfortable, because they've learned that you're not listening. They become silent sufferers, and you interpret the silence as tolerance. Look, your dog will endure cold for you, not because they want to, because you ask them to, because it's part of the routine, because they trust that when you open that door and hand them a leash, it means something good is about to happen. That trust is everything. But trust isn't consent. Your dog can't tell you in words that they're cold. They can't say, I need to go inside now. So they use their body. They tuck, they lift, they seek, they slow down. And if those signals don't work, their brain starts shutting down functions to survive. That's not stubborn. That's desperate. So here's what you need to do. Start watching for the early signs, the tail position, the paw lifts, the way they move toward warmth. Those signs are your dog trying to communicate before it becomes critical. And when you see them, respond. Cut the walk short. Add a coat. Choose a warmer time of day. Because once you hit sign 4, once you see that blank stare and unresponsive behavior, you've already pushed too far. And if your dog shivers after you come inside, don't dismiss it. That shivering is showing you how cold they actually were outside. If your older dog limps on cold days but not warm ones, you're watching cold-induced pain that you could prevent. If your dog sleeps for hours after a winter walk, their body is recovering from stress, not resting from exercise. These patterns tell a story. And the story is that your dog has been working harder than you realized to keep up with what you're asking. Music. So go back to that moment at the door. Your dog is wagging their tail. They're excited. They trust you. But excitement doesn't mean they love the cold. It means they love the routine. It means they trust that you know what's best. And that puts the responsibility on you, not to feel guilty, but to pay attention, to watch their body, not just their tail, to understand that silence doesn't mean comfort. Your dog will follow you into the cold every single time you ask, not because they're built for it, because you're the one asking. That wag at the door was never about winter. It was about you, and now you know the difference.